Uncontrolled search and seizure is one of the first and most effective weapons in the arsenal of every arbitrary government. It comes from Brenninger v. U.S., 338 U.S. 160. The court that decided Carroll v. United States sat during a period in our history when the nation was confronted with a law enforcement problem of no small magnitude, the enforcement of the Prohibition law. But that court resisted the pressure of official expediency against the guarantee of the Fourth Amendment. They didn't expand the searches and the seizure in the Carroll Doctrine. They resisted the expansion of the government's uncontrolled searches. You know, government agents are always out there screaming, we need this in order to protect the citizens. They need that in order to produce a police state. The only reason for suspending or abridging our Fourth and Fifth Amendment rights is so that they can cow us and so that they can spread terror and terrorize us. And any policeman out there that says that he's just doing this for the health, safety, and welfare of the people is just another terrorist. He belongs over in Nuremberg somewhere where he can just follow orders. The only reason I'm throwing you in the oven today, Gordon, is because I was ordered to. And I'm doing it for the health, safety, welfare, and benefit of all the rest of the people. You Jews just have to go into the ovens, that's all. And I'm doing it for your own best interest. And didn't we hear that in the Inquisitions? Well, we just want to save your soul from hell, and we're just going to burn you up in this barn to get you to repent. We've heard of that baloney now for thousands of years. That comes to us from God knows where, the Tower of Babel somewhere. Mr. Chief Justice Taft's opinion for the court distinguished between searches at the border and in the interior and easily controls the case at bar. Easily controls in this case. And so he's saying, you government agents over there who are quoting administrative law decisions that are incumbent upon corporations are arguing off point. And Mr. Chief Justice Taft, who was the former President of the United States here in 1925, is saying, and I'm saying he's Chief Justice here in 1925, he's saying that you cannot search in violation of the Fourth Amendment, that there's got to be probable cause supported by affidavit, oath, and then it was changed a little bit in 1968 to include a thing called reasonable suspicion to protect the policeman. But they're not abrogating rights. Your Supreme Court here is the last bastion against the tyranny that would be imposed upon us by the police departments. Policemen want to go the course of least resistance. Why would I want to go out and get a warrant and go to all this work and all this criminal detective work when all I've got to do is point my gun at you, get out of your car, dummy, open the trunk, and let me look. And if I find something to convict you with, I'll charge you with a crime, and if I don't, I'll let you go. That's what they do in Poland. We don't want that here. So Mr. Taft said it would be intolerable and unreasonable if a prohibition agent were authorized to stop every automobile on the chance of finding liquor and thus subject all persons lawfully using the highways to the inconvenience and the indignity. That's what it really boils down to, is the indignity of a servant over here demanding of his master that he open the trunk of his car. When people come into my office, they don't put their feet up on my desk. And when I go into somebody's office, how would you like it if I walked in your office, put my feet up on your desk, and said, this is the way it's going to be? Wouldn't you say, just who do you think you are, dummy? Don't you know whose office this is? Travelers may be so stopped in crossing an international boundary because of national self-protection, reasonably requiring one entering the country to identify himself as entitled to come in, and his belongings as effects which may be lawfully brought in. But those lawfully within the country, entitled to use the public highways, have a right to free passage without interruption or search unless there is known to a competent official authorized to search probable cause for believing that their vehicles are carrying contraband or illegal merchandise. If you don't know what's in it, it's none of your business what's in it. Accordingly, the judgment of the Court of Appeals is reversed. And those are the magic words that you want in your case. Case reversed or remanded for trial de novo. That's the magic words that win your position or win your case. All right? As you can see, there are a lot of these search and seizure cases. And as I've said, the more you read, the more knowledgeable you will become. Now, as we proceed along in our course of study, we're going to look at 30 separate areas of criminal law that we need to know and understand. We're going to go into arraignments, and we're going to learn how to go in and argue these points. But before we can go into the courtroom and argue our position, we have to know what the Constitution and what search and seizure and what the facts are and what the law is concerning search and seizure. Remember this. If you're one of those persons out there that believes that the police should search, regardless of probable cause, just open the trunk and let him look. But for those of you out there who say, wait a minute, I do not want to be subjected to the indignity of being searched by my servants, then you have a right to be protected. And I encourage you to exercise that right, because every time you exercise that right, you're exercising it for me. You get, I'd say 1 million people nationwide consistently demanding their rights. They will be coming in contact with police and government officials often enough that the police and government officials, when they hear a citizen say, what's your probable cause for making this intrusion into my private life? Oh, I'm sorry, sir. I recognize by the words that you use that you are of a status that I recognize. I just want my government officials to recognize my status. I'm a sovereign citizen. I'm not a slave. I'm not a felon who's on parole. I don't need my government's permission to carry a gun. I had the power, I had the right to carry the gun before I created the government. You have to remember that we, the citizens, created the government. The government didn't create you, and therefore the government is subservient to you. It's only when you become a lawbreaker and a lawless person who's convicted of a crime that that jury sentenced you to jail, or that jury took your life, liberty, or property away from you. Now, under our Constitution, there's only one way that your property, your life, your liberty, or your property can be taken away from you against your will and over your objection, and that's when the jury does it. The jury can do it to you, but nobody else can. And so, in most cases, what's happened is people are volunteering into regulated enterprise, and there they don't have rights, and then they have voluntarily given up those rights, and then they want constitutional protections after the fact. People run around all the time fearful of the IRS audit, fearful of the IRS examining their bank records, and they run around terrorized because they're afraid they're going to get caught. I'm going to get caught doing this, or I'm going to get caught doing that. Mice get caught, but lions don't get caught. And I'm a lion. And so I'm not running around all the time fearful of my government catching me, because I don't have any bank accounts, and I don't have any credit cards, and I don't make contracts, and I don't volunteer to give up my rights, and I'm not concerned about my government catching me doing this or catching me doing that. I don't break the law. I don't get involved in those regulated enterprises, and boy, let me tell you, if I ever get involved in another regulated enterprise, I'm going to be real careful that I understand and obey all those regulations, because let me tell you, if you're in that regulated enterprise, the government then is there to protect the health, safety, welfare, and morals of the people. If you're an airline pilot, you better be real careful that you don't climb into that cockpit drunk, because I'm the fellow back there who authorized that government agent to check you out and make sure that you're not flying that airplane drunk. You're affecting my public interest, and I don't want to ride with you drunk. There was a few airline accidents this past year, and when that regulation says that you will not take this airplane off the ground when it's got frost on the wings, you better look out there on the wings, and when you see frost or when you see ice out there, hold it, troops. The regulation says we can't do that. When you're flying your own airplane privately and you got a load of frost on there or you got a load of ice, you just go ahead and fly that airplane anytime you want to. Because I don't care if you kill yourself. I just don't want you killing me. And any time that the public interest is involved, the police powers attach. And this thing of lawyers going to law school and coming out and telling you that the public interest is involved and everybody's involved in trade, commerce, business, and industry, yeah, they're pretty well right. That's pretty well the case. But you don't have to volunteer into that regulated enterprise. All right, now to sum up then on this thing called search and seizure, we're at the end of Lesson 5. Now you have the information that you need. Now what you've got to do is to read these key landmark cases that are in books 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 of these Supreme Court decisions. Out of those cases branch off into hundreds of other cases, and I'm suggesting to you that it's an absolute necessary and imperative part of your homework now to study about 100 more search and seizure cases that come right out of these major landmark cases. And once you're at that point, you're going to have a knowledge and understanding that when you walk into the jailhouse scene, the scene of the crime, no matter what the confrontation is, you're not one of those citizens that is sitting there wondering, am I going to get caught? Because at that point you know and understand the law.